It is no secret that the Islamic Republic of Iran is a revisionist power that seeks regional hegemony. In fact, the ambitions of Iran's ruling theocrats are more than regional. They're global, seeking to export Iran's Islamic revolution abroad. And a key aspect of Iran's vision, a chief goal that they seldom fail to mention, is the destruction of Israel. For those who pay close attention to the Middle East in general, and Israel in particular, it might not be news that crime in general, and violent crime in particular, is rising in Israel's Arab communities. More than rising, it has been exploding. What this has to do with Iran is, of course, the subject both of this call and of my article in JPC's spring issue. In 2013, there were 58 homicides in Israel's Arab neighborhoods. A mere 7 years later, in 2020, that figure more than doubled with a reported 108 homicides. The next year, 2021, witnessed another increase with an astounding 126 reported murders. And I want to stress as well, that's reported. The figure is actually probably quite higher. The Islamic Republic is helping to foment violence in Israeli Arab communities. Tehran has been sending illegal firearms and weaponry into Israel's Arab communities, and it's not speculation to say so, it's a fact. In November 2021, Israeli police revealed that Iran has been smuggling weapons to Israel's Arab communities to, quote, sow civil strife, as the Times of Israel reported. The chief superintendent for Israel's Northern District told Israel's Channel 12 News that, quote, 95% of the smuggling from Lebanon is directed by Hezbollah, Iran's Lebanese-based terror proxy. Some of those arms are also being smuggled across the Jordanian border. The vast majority, however, seem to be coming in through Israel's northern border areas. Hezbollah has long maintained control over the area adjacent to the border with Israel. Accordingly, it's highly unlikely that the terrorist group would not be involved. Very little happens in those areas without Hezbollah's knowledge or acquiescence. Iran using its proxies to smuggle weapons into Israel is not and should not be considered surprising. Iran has considerable expertise in smuggling. Weapons, like narcotics, work to eat away and destroy the civil societies and social fabrics of Iran's enemies. So that Iran uses proxies to smuggle weapons to Israeli Arabs is unsurprising. It's a strategy. It dovetails with Tehran's efforts, often successful, to sow chaos in the region. Iran's strategy is aimed at delegitimizing Israel. In this sense, it's an influence operation to serve that end. By encouraging violence among Israeli Arabs, Tehran is aiding the numerous elements that are engaged in a long-running campaign to weaken the Jewish state. And unfortunately, all the attention, worthwhile attention that's been paid to Iran's, say, precision-guided munitions, its nuclear weapons program, these, of course, are very important. But Iran excels, and what Iran really does well is asymmetrical warfare. They are, I think, a lot more sophisticated in terms of their, if you want to call this a political campaign, they're sophisticated at it, and they've had a lot of success. I think one thing that is unfortunate both for Israel's detractors and its defenders is there's this longstanding tendency to view Israel as kind of apart from the rest of the Middle East, and it's not. It's smack dab in the middle of the East, and it would be, I think, presumptuous to think that Iran's playbook, which has worked so successfully in Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, so on, why wouldn't Iran apply it here? They've had such success elsewhere. I think it would be presumptuous and dangerous to think that they wouldn't in Israel, and I think they are. Yes, I think that Iran is emboldened. Clearly it's emboldened, and it's making gains. Not just in Israel and in the north, but you look at Yemen and elsewhere. If a lot is going right for Iran outside of Iran. So I think that yes, the Islamic Republic is emboldened. It has the means which it didn't have.
آنچه در مورد ما میگویند